Hi, my name's Alex Brown, and I absolutely love games. My first video game experience was when I was around about 4 years old, staying at my grandparents' house. And I remember walking past my granddad's study and seeing him and my mum playing on a game called Myst. And I watched them play it, and at the time exploring through this big world, because, I mean, it was big at the time, very small if you play Myst now. And seeing the puzzle solving, the thinking that went into the game, the mechanics, the exploration, and seeing the cutscene and Atreus' story and the two brothers that used to creep the hell out of me as a child. I loved that game so much, as creepy as I found it as well. Around about a year later, my mum came home one day and she had Riven, which is the sequel to Myst, and we'd spend hours on her original Mac computer, and she sold it quite cheap. I feel like we could be a millionaire now. But it was so old that it had megabytes on it, not even gigabytes. And we'd play Riven all day, for days long, just playing that game up in the attic. And then fast forward a couple of years later, I get my first console for my birthday, which was the original Xbox with Shrek 2. I know, Shrek 2. Ever since then, I've not looked back, and I've loved gaming. It's been there when I've been sad, when I've been happy. It's given me so many incredible experiences, whether that's been on my own through single-player experiences or with friends online, with the likes of Halo or Call of Duty in the past, or even more recently, games like Fortnite and PUBG. I just love games so much. I love the art form that games are. I love how it's like a bridge with technology and entertainment mixed into one. I love games so much. So I thought I'd decide to make this podcast, which is Back to Gaming. So the whole point is, at the end of the week, you and I would go back to talking about the things that we love. The thing that we love, video games. That's the whole point of this. Now, I'm not in the gaming industry at all. I'm in the radio industry. I've done audio before, never done a podcast before. I've done radio shows and stuff like that, but I've never been able to do a radio show where I just talk about games. And I thought I'd do this in a podcast where you and I can discuss games together. So the way it's going to work, every single week, I'll recap the biggest news stories of the week. I'll give you my pundit view on them. I'll give you my take on them as well. In the future, I'd love to get you to get in touch. Maybe you've got a story, you want to ask a question, you want to ask my view on a particular gaming story, or my opinion on something to do with a game. You can get in touch at BackToGamingPodcast@gmail.com. That you can email me on that, or you can tweet me at BackToGamingPod on Twitter. I'd love to have your suggestions as well. Any ideas for this podcast that you think really fit in. I want you to feel like this podcast is your podcast as much as it's mine. Although I'm talking to you, I feel like you can, have an input as well. And I just really want this to grow. And we can celebrate games here together. As well as going through all the latest news, I'll be talking about new games that are out this past week and games that are coming out on the horizon as well. And I'll also leave you with a question each week for you to get in touch with. You can answer. So it could be like, what's your favourite game ever? Or what remake would you love to see on next-gen consoles, a new IP, or that you'd really like, sort of a new IP about a certain topic that you're interested in. Anything like that, I could be asking you. And I'll also be talking about what I've been playing. Maybe we'll have guests on this show in the future. It's just a podcast that's open to grow. And as I keep saying, we celebrate games here together. So let's go through the news of this past week, and it's been one of the biggest weeks, I feel like, in a long time in terms of gaming. I feel like this past week has felt like a mini E3. I mean, so much has happened. It's been brilliant. First of all, let's start off with today's news. At the time of recording, it's Friday the 15th. Good job it's not the 13th. Could you imagine? My first show, it's the 13th. Friday the 13th. So, story number one from today. PlayStation 5 reveal is to have an entire slate of games revealed. This comes from Reset Era, from a guy called Jeff Grubb, who seems to be a Twitch streamer on Twitter. Rumour, this is, nothing's been confirmed. They take it with a pinch of salt. I think this is easy to assume pretty much anyway. I mean, so far this year, I feel like Microsoft have been absolutely brilliant with the marketing of the Xbox Series X, although Inside Xbox wasn't great, was it? I didn't think that was good at all. I didn't think that was good marketing when they said it was gameplay, when it wasn't gameplay, it was just trailers, and nothing even screamed out next generation to me. If you look at Vampire the Masquerade, or you look at Dirt, the new Dirt game that's coming out. So I think if people are feeling a bit doubtful over PlayStation 5, which I don't think many people are because of the huge success that the PlayStation 4 has been, but I think for PlayStation for Sony to get on top of everything, and if anyone's skeptical, to go back to thinking, yeah, definitely PlayStation 5. What was I thinking about getting the Xbox Series X? I think they are bound to reveal a whole lineup of games. I mean, at the moment, we don't actually know any first-party PlayStation games beyond Ghosts of Tsushima. Hopefully I pronounced that right. I feel like I can't. Which comes out in July. So post-July, there's nothing, which is understandable because obviously PlayStation 5 come in, but we know nothing that's in the works. I mean, there's rumours of Horizon Zero Dawn 2, which is definitely happening. It's definitely being made. I mean, it's easy to guess that. So I do think that with this event, although it's a rumour, I do think they will reveal games like Horizon Zero Dawn 2. I think it's inevitable. Maybe a teaser of Spider-Man 2 as well. Maybe even potentially new IPs. Maybe a return of Ratchet and Clank or something, or a new Crash Bandicoot game. Maybe they'll even reveal the new Call of Duty, although it's not obviously PlayStation exclusive, but they have had marketing deals with Call of Duty in the past. They do at the moment with Modern Warfare, so maybe we'll see Black Ops 5 at this event as well. So I think, yeah, there'll be a whole big slate of games revealed when PlayStation decide to reveal the 5. And it seems like they're going to be doing it on June the 4th. That's the rumoured date. Of course, we'll keep you updated here on the BackToGaming Podcast. Next up, another rumour. This is from Nebellion on Twitter. So on the Epic Games Store, Grand Theft Auto 5, which you and I know is currently free. Loads of people have had problems downloading it. Hopefully it's fixed now. I feel like everybody's already got Grand Theft Auto 5. So this rumour is another series of games, 3 games that are going to be free on the Epic Games Store. First one is next week, which is Civilization 6, I believe. And that's rumoured to be happening next week on May the 21st. So that's next Thursday. May the 28th, Borderlands, The Handsome Collection and Ark Survival Evolved on June the 4th. Again, just a rumour, but those games sound plausible. I mean, they're quite old now from what I understand, so it seems plausible to have those games free on the Epic Games Store. Next up from today, the PlayStation blog, they revealed that Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is now available on Resident Evil Resistance. Did you play Resident Evil Resistance? What did you think? I didn't like it. It just didn't click for me, that online game aspect of the game at all. Resident Evil 3 I really liked. I had a fantastic time playing that game. I enjoyed it. I was a bit skeptical of it because I didn't enjoy the demo, but I really enjoyed the final game. Although I do agree with most of the people that the game was far too short. It felt really short, especially when there not being any added on campaigns or different decisions, which I believe was in the original game, although I didn't play the original game, so I'm not going to put it next to the original game. But from my experience with it, I did enjoy it. Next up is from Kotaku. Now, this is a big story, an interesting story as well. And that's that no Titanfall game is in development. So Vince Zampell, who's the CEO of Respawn, he said that there's no new Titanfall games in development. So he said this in an interview with IGN. He said that there's nothing currently in development, but he said that the franchise was always there. So they've not completely got rid of the franchise at all. But it's quite interesting because last year there was comments from Andrew Wilson, who's the CEO of EA, and he mentioned there being a twist on for franchise. So maybe there was a Titanfall 3 in the works. But maybe it got cancelled. I mean, Titanfall 1 I thought was a good game. Titanfall 2 I really liked. I thought the online was addictive. It gave you very Call of Duty vibes in a good way. and the single player campaign, I think, is really underrated. It's one of the best first person shooter campaigns. I really, really did enjoy Titanfall 2. But I feel like EA, they set that game up to fail because they released it on the same day as Battlefield 1, one of their biggest franchises. If they had just let that game come out at a different time and just let that game breathe, then I feel like it would have been a much more bigger success story. It does make sense, though, for Respawn to not make a new Titanfall game at the moment. I mean, Jedi Fallen Order, I've not played that game. It's on my backlog to play. I really want to play it. I've recently watched the Star Wars films, so I do really want to play it. But that game has sold over 10 million copies now, and the Star Wars deal with Disney that runs out in 2023, and EA have said that Jedi Fallen Order is the start of a new franchise. So it's, you know, we can assume, we can pretty much say that Jedi Fallen 2 is in development now, and that makes sense. And it seems like that'll be the last game that EA will release. I mean, whether that license, the Star Wars license, is going to get renewed with EA, that's a different story. I personally don't think it will. I don't think they've done too great with the Star Wars franchise. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if Disney do a separate deal where EA and Respawn can just continue to make Jedi Fallen Order games, and they give the rest of the franchise to another development studio. Who knows? But I am interested in Jedi Fallen Order. Have you played it? I'd love to know what you think. As I say, any questions at all in terms of gaming, you can get in touch right here on the BackToGaming Podcast. It's your podcast as well. You know, I love chatting to you about games. That is my passion. So just a reminder, you can email me at backtogamingpodcast@gmail.com or tweet me at backtogamingpod. Next up is Kotaku, and they are saying that more games have been added to the are going to be added to the Nintendo Online SNES library. These games are available from next week, May the 20th. You'll be able to play Wild Guns, Panel de Pon, and also Operation Logic Bomb from the SNES, and also Rygar from the NES. Now, do you play these games on Nintendo Switch Online? I personally don't. I just don't really have an interest in any of them. I never used to play or have those consoles, so they just don't interest me. But if you do enjoy playing those old games, then that's good news for you, I hope. Enemy, I didn't know that they were doing gaming news, but they have confirmed that Halo Infinite will be showcased in July's Xbox 2020. As we know already, that July is when Xbox is going to be revealing the Xbox Studios first-party lineup of games. This is a new post on the official Halo forum, where 343 Industries have confirmed that Halo Infinite will be one of the titles showcased during that showcase. No official date for that showcase, though, has been announced yet, and it's unclear whether this showcase will be actual gameplay footage or just a story trailer. I'm really excited for Halo Infinite. It's one of the most anticipated games because I feel like this is going to be a reboot of Halo. I'm hoping that it will be. I mean, I'm hoping it's in the stead where when we played Gears 5 last year, it felt new. I mean, there was RPG mechanics in that game and some open world sandboxy areas as well. So it seemed like Gears 5 reinvented itself a little bit. And I hope that Halo Infinite follows that path and does the same. I love Halo. I've played all of the games. I gotta admit, I don't find Halo 4 very memorable. I want to play it again. I remember really enjoying it at the time, but I just don't remember that much of it. Halo 1, 2, 3, I loved. ODST, and I think Reach is my favourite of them all. Halo 5, Guardians, I really didn't like. I thought the campaign was awful. The whole storyline with Spartan Locke and Master Chief, it seemed like you can have a big duel with him, or Master Chief might have gone bad, and it didn't really end up being any of that at all. I found it really underwhelming and disappointing, that campaign. And the online, which Halo, I loved the online. I thought the online on Halo 5, I hated the requisition points and the packs and the cards and the microtransaction system in that game. I just really didn't like it. I was really disappointed, which is a shame because I usually love Halo. So I'm really hoping, and it's one of my most anticipated games, Halo Infinite, because I do have hope on it. I do think they're going to turn this ship around, and Halo Infinite could actually be the best Halo we have played, and hopefully it reinvents itself. Now let's go to yesterday's news, Thursday's news. So state of play, we had Ghost of Tsushima, which was absolutely brilliant. I thought that state of play, that reveal, that gameplay reveal, I really, really did like it. You saw the exploration mechanics with the UI being completely gone. Usually, obviously, you get a map or a compass in games. Instead, the world tells you where to go and it points you in the direction. So, for example, wind points you in the direction where to go. Birds do, animals as well. You might also see smoke in the distance, which means that there's something going on there that could be part of your mission. It really did impress me. There's also stuff that you find in most other open world games, like crafting, random events as well, that we've seen in, like Far Cry and Red Dead Redemption 2. And another thing that really stood out to me is the combat. The combat in this game is all about precision. It's all about parrying and brutal death blows. And the way the combat, the way it looked so satisfying. The combat in Ghosts of Tsushima. And I just hope that when we've got the DualShock 4 in our hands, it's going to feel as satisfying as it looks, because it looks brilliant. So you can play as a samurai. You can be a samurai. You play as a guy called Jin, and you can obviously go in and just completely beat down and fight all these enemies, or you can play as a stealthy ghost. This ghost aspect looks like the Assassin's Creed Samurai game I've always wanted. It looks absolutely amazing. The way of different distractions like smoke bombs, although you get those in Assassin's Creed, it looks so much better. And the firecrackers, the different ways to distract enemies, split them up, the way you assassinate them and take them out, it was amazing. And also, when you're as a ghost, you can actually terrify enemies where they like crawl away in fear. It looks brilliant. It looks really, really good. I've already pre-ordered the collector's edition, so I'm really excited to play that game and talk to you about it on Back to Gaming. Finally, about Ghost of Tsushima, if you're really into samurai movies, there's Samurai Cinema Mode. So this is a filter that lets you play the entirety of the game in grainy black and white with added wind, just like in the classic samurai movies. Moving on Thursday's news, Paper Mario, that is back. It's called the Origami King. Whenever I think that, I think of Heavy Rain. Obviously, it's not got anything to do with the Origami Killer. It comes out on the same day as Ghosts of Tsushima on July the 17th. This comes from The Verge. And the game includes what Nintendo is describing as a new ring-based battle system that lets you flex your puzzle-solving skills to line up scattered enemies and maximize damage. In terms of the story, Nintendo are describing the premise as Mario facing one of the most thrilling challenges yet in Paper Mario, the Origami King, when the dangerous King Ollie unleashes his plan to fold the entire world. Just when matters couldn't get worse, he's bound Princess Peach's castle in giant coloured streamers and transported it to a distant mountain. And he's also transformed Bowser's minions into folded soldiers and enlisted them in his treacherous cause. It does look good. The trailer I thought was good. The visuals look good. Usually I'm not impressed by visuals on the Switch system, but it did look really good. I've only played Mario Odyssey. I've never really played another Mario game, but I'm excited for this. I really am. Now, next up is Fallout 76. Although the service may be dead, they're not giving up on this game yet. That's because they have now released a 2020 roadmap. There's going to be 3 updates coming this year, one in summer, one in fall, and one in winter. Now, Wastelands is also mentioned here. It's already out at the moment. It's just a way of promoting it, saying if you've not played it since launch, like most people like me, Wasteland is out there with the NPCs. So first of all, I'm not impressed with this, just to let you know, and I'll tell you why in a second. I'll tell you why as I go through it. Introducing Seasons. This is going to be the summer update. From the makers of Unstoppable Shindig, Blast Radius, and Catch the Commie comes the legendary Race, a new way to experience irradiated West Virginia. Each season brings new progression of challenges to complete, plus exclusive rewards like Atom bundles, perk card packs, and unique cosmetics. Legendary perks, new high-level perks, public teams, find public teams with ease, and a Colossal Problem, which is a new legendary boss event. Now, this is a battle pass system. I think this is such a bad direction to go. I don't know what is going through Bethesda's minds at the moment at all. I mean, it's just they're already charging people a monthly subscription to have more infantry and things like that, which is just so absurd. And to talk about putting a battle pass on top of it, which inevitably is, you're going to be paying for these perk packs and doing these challenges and this battle pass. It's just, I'm really disappointed with Bethesda going down this route. Now, the fall update is One Wasteland for All. Experience all that Appalachian Wasteland has to offer, no matter your level. Rebalance combat and rewards scale to your level, so players at different levels can easily team up to experience the entire world together, from the Toxic Valley to the Cranberry Bog. Now, you see, Season 2, Season 2 will come out during this update. There's a new quest line as well called Steel Dawn. And there's something called Daily Ops, which says earn scaling rewards. Now, if you remember when they announced Fallout 76, Todd Howard, he said that they had been working with the Elder Scrolls Online development team on how to shape and how to build Fallout 76, and they've been paying close attention to the Elder Scrolls Online. Now, a few years ago, the Elder Scrolls Online had an update which really did improve the game, where they essentially did this. They rebalanced combat. You could then go around the entire of Tamriel. You weren't locked out of certain areas based on your level. You could play with your friends anywhere you wanted in Tamriel, which was a really welcomed update, which did improve the game. But if they were paying close attention to Elder Scrolls Online, then surely this would have been available right at launch when it came out back in 2018. It's really annoying that it seems like they're lying. Nothing seems sort of straightforward with Bethesda these days. Now, the winter update, which I'm interested in personally because I am a Fallout fan, apart from Fallout 76. This update is Fractured Steel. Later this year, the Brotherhood of Steel returns to Appalachia in the search of new technology. The continuation of the story arc started in Steel Dawn, which comes out in the fall update, will introduce new NPCs, quests, and companions to the West Virginia wasteland. Obviously, I'm going to be interested in this because Brotherhood of Steel, I really like. I like them in the other Fallout games, so I'm always going to be interested in this. There's going to be perk loadouts, easily customized builds, which should be in the game anyway. Camp shelters, build instant interiors. You feel like that could be in the game already. Expeditions, new repeatable missions, which you also think, oh, that could be in the game already. So all in all, the 2020 roadmap for Fallout 76 I do find really underwhelming. I am really disappointed with the direction that Bethesda are going down. I really hope that they do change their ways. I hope that Starfield is going to be a good game. I've still got hope in the Elder Scrolls 6. I love Skyrim, so I hope that game is still good. And I hope that they change the game engine, because the game engine that they use is buggy, it looks ugly, it's horrible. And speaking of game engines, let's move on to Wednesday's news and talk about the Unreal Engine 5. It was revealed running on PlayStation 5, and it looked absolutely incredible. When I watched Inside Xbox, none of those games screamed out next generation to me, like Vampire Masquerades 2, Bloodlines, Dirt, the new Dirt game. None of those games sort of screamed, oh, that's what next gen is going to look like. But looking at the Unreal Engine 5 being shown on the PlayStation 5, that made me think, oh yeah, this is next gen. Now, before we start, I know it's a tech demo. I know that it's just been built as a tech demo, not as a game. But if you look back at Unreal Engine 4's reveal, we've surpassed those graphics. So I do really think that we are going to get there. And the goals that they've said for the next generation, for Unreal Engine 5, is to achieve photorealism on par with movie CG and real life, and put it within practical reach of development teams of all sizes through highly productive tools and content libraries, which sounds really, really good. I'm really excited for it. Unreal Engine 5, that's coming out next year. Fortnite is going to be upgraded to the engine next year as well. And speaking of Fortnite, that's going to be a launch game on the Xbox Series X and on the PlayStation 5, which I think is a given, really. I mean, I think we can say it's the biggest game on the planet, so you'd assume that it will be on the next generation once it launches. It'll be weird with it not being. I'm interested to see if other live service games are going to be on these next generation consoles at launch, because I mean they should be. I feel like they should be there for day one. They're live service games. They should have a smart delivery function where it just upgrades onto next generation. So games that I'm thinking of at the moment is Destiny 2. I think that should be there from day one. Rainbow Six Siege as well, the Division 2. I think it's a given. I think those games should definitely be there ready when the next generation finally comes. The next story, which was one of my favourite stories of the week, is the Mafia Trilogy. So all 3 Mafia games are getting a re-release being named the Mafia Trilogy. Now, there was a brief teaser that happened on Wednesday. It didn't really tell you anything about this trilogy, but it just says the platforms that it's going to come to, which is going to be on PC via Steam and the Epic Games Store, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and also Stadia as well. They have said that there'll be more details on this Tuesday, on the 19th of May. As always, we'll keep you updated here on the BackToGaming Podcast. But there is an update to this story, and there was a leak on the Microsoft storefront where it revealed Mafia 1 part of a trilogy. Now, Mafia 1, I never played. I always wanted to, never played it. Okay, so it says on the listing that this game is actually going to be a whole full-fledged remake. It's set in the 1930s, where you play as a guy called Tommy, who's a cab driver, and he gets thrust into a deadly underworld, and he's initially uneasy about falling in with the Solari crime family, but he soon finds that the rewards are too big to ignore. Now, on this listing, it says that it's going to be released on the 27th of August. But one interesting thing is there's another update. The final update is that Mafia 2, which is one of my favourite games of all time. I love that game. I think it's incredible. Mafia 2 Definitive Edition, which they're calling it, also leaked on a Microsoft Store listing to come out on Tuesday, where we're meant to be expecting more details. They've said it's going to be remastering this listing with all DLC content included as well, coming out on the 19th of May. If that's true, I think that's going to be amazing. They'll probably show briefly Mafia 3 Definitive Edition with all the DLC. I don't really know what they can really change with that game. And then they go into more in depth for the Mafia 1 remake. And then they say, by the way, Mafia 2 is out now. You can go play it. You can go download it from your storefronts. Next story is the PlayStation 5 is still on track. This is from The Verge. Sony has said that PlayStation 5 is still on track for launch this holiday season, despite the COVID-19 pandemic. They made this announcement part of its fiscal earnings 2019 earnings release on Wednesday. I think it's a given. I mean, Phil Spencer has also said that the Xbox Series X isn't going to be facing delays at the moment. And speaking of Phil Spencer, he has explained why coronavirus game delays are more likely next year rather than this year. He said that through the summer, early fall, he feels really good about those games coming out. He said this interview with Business Insider. But he said that games that we're targeting a year from now or beyond, there is going to be some impact, but they'll be able to react to it. He explained that why he believes these game delays are going to be felt more next year is because motion cap. He said that it's something that's basically stopped, as you can expect. We're just not going into mocap studios at the moment, he said. He said that obviously, you know, this can't be pursued, mocapping, when working from home, which I mean is a given. So it will be interesting to see what happens next year, if it's going to be quite an empty year for games. And that's surely going to have a big impact on these new consoles coming out, because they're going to come out with inevitably, you know, a few launch games, if any, Maybe there'll be one on each console, but maybe a few more, and then that's it. There's not much for 2021 because we've not been able to finish the mocapping. That will definitely be interesting. Now, if we go on to Tuesday's news, we go back to Sony. And Sony, they announced PlayStation Studios. This story I got from gamesindustry.biz. And Sony, they have now developed a new umbrella brand to unite all of its first-party PlayStation titles. This is it. The teaser of this, the clip of this, that's going to be on each game, each PlayStation exclusive game from later this year. It's so Marvel Cinematic Universe vibes. It's literally like the MCU intro. I like it though. I mean, it makes sense. There's Xbox Game Studios now, PlayStation Studios. It makes perfect sense. I was mentioning about how it looks all MCU. You get different characters appearing. So, for example, characters from Uncharted, Little Big Planet as well. So it might maybe get Little Big Planet 4. Could be a tease. God of War, Ratchet and Clank, so maybe a new Ratchet and Clank, Last of Us, and also Horizon Zero Dawn are all featured. Another news story from Tuesday that I am really excited for. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 are being remastered. I have wanted a new skateboarding game for so long. I mean, can you believe that it's 10 years now since Skate 3? 10 years since Skate 3. It's mad. This is also from The Verge, and it's going to be coming to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC via the Epic Games Store, as it is with most games now, on September the 4th. The basics with this is that this is going to be a remastered collection, not a remake. It's going to feature updated visuals, all of the original levels, characters and tricks, extra challenges, a more elaborate creator park mode where you can share custom skate parks online, a brand new online multiplayer modes as well, along with local multiplayer split screen, which would be brilliant. And on top of that, the game is going to include the vast majority of the iconic Pro Skater soundtrack, though they have said that not every song will be on there due to licensing issues, which is expected. I mean, the games are over 20 years old now. Can you believe it? I never played Pro Skater 1 and 2. I played the Tony Hawk Underground games, which I loved when I was a kid, but never played the Pro Skater games. I am so excited with this. I've been really wanting a good skateboarding game for so long. I know there's Skater XL coming out fairly soon as well, but I mean, it's Tony Hawk. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. I am interested to see if this sells really well, which I can assure you it will. I mean, loads of people are going to be buying this, I'm sure. And then because it's so successful, that makes EA turn around and make Skate 4. I hope that they do that. The next story from Tuesday, I told you it's a busy week, a lot happened this week, is Dutch Predator Hunting Grounds. Dutch character in the original Predator film, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. He is going to be back. The character is going to be in the game, and Arnold is going to be voicing that character. There's two separate updates for this, one free and one paid. The free update, which is going to be available for everyone, is that players will be able to learn where Dutch has been all these years. So if you're really into the Predator movie and the storyline and Dutch's character, that's really good for you, because you'll be able to hear his story in his own words through a series of voice tapes that you earn as you level up. Now, the second is a paid DLC pack where you play as Dutch, so you can actually get Arnold Schwarzenegger as a character in the game, and you get early access to the QR5 hammerhead rifle and also Dutch's knife as well. Now, this will be available free to all players later in June, but I don't know if it means that you'll be able to play with Dutch, if that will be free in June, or if that will just be part of the paid update. Now, this update does come out on May the 26th. Now, we're nearly at the end of this week in news. Monday's news. The Elder Scrolls 6 details aren't coming for years. This is from GameSpot. Senior Vice President of Communications at Bethesda, Pete Hines, he has responded directly to a fan on Twitter who asked about news pertaining The Elder Scrolls 6, and Hines reiterated that the sequel is only planned for release after the company's new RPG, Starfield, which I mentioned earlier, which we don't even know anything about Starfield yet, other than it's going to be a space RPG. So with news on Elder Scrolls 6 only coming after Starfield's release, we should prepare to wait years until the project surfaces again and we hear more information about it. And just a reminder, if you missed it a few weeks ago, Bethesda, they're not planning to host an online event of its own to replace their cancelled E3 press conference. So it really leaves it unclear when we'll hear any news about Starfield, whether we'll hear it in the near future this year or if it will show up at another event, maybe with PlayStation, I don't know. So, we could be waiting until next year to hear anything about Starfield, which means that if we think about it, Elder Scrolls might not come out until towards the end of this decade, which feels really weird, like around 2026, it seems like. The other news that came out is that there's going to be a new indie showcase. This I got from Press Start. So it's all going to be... it's all from a group of indie developers that have announced this. It's called Guerrilla Collective. It's a 3-day online event. It's going to take place from June 6th until June 8th. And it's got loads of developers involved, developers of games such as Zombie Army 4, SteamWorld Quest, Disco Elysium, Baldur's Gate 3, and Mutant Year Zero as well. So that's this week's news. If you've got any questions, maybe, when news stories come out next week and we hear more, if you've got any questions, if you've got any opinions that you want to share with me, do get in touch at BackToGamingPodcast@gmail.com or tweet me at BackToGamingPod. Now, let's recap of what games came out this week. First of all, we talked about Halo earlier. Halo 2, the Anniversary Edition, that's now available on Steam on the PC now. You can now play that on PC. It's definitely worth checking out. I've only played it on console, so I don't know how well it runs on the PC. But it's one of my favourite Halos. I really do like Halo 2, and the updated visuals, it looks gorgeous. It's brilliant. We also had Deep Rock Galactic come out this week. That's a 1-to-4 player co-op first-person shooter featuring space dwarfs. It's 100% destructible environments as well, procedurally generated caves, so each place you go to is completely different, and endless hordes of alien monsters. That's out on PC and the Xbox One, and I have heard really, really good things about that game. If you've not heard of Worth a Buy, a really good YouTube channel, he's done a really good video on that. It's definitely worth checking that out. We also had Iron Fury, which is a true old-school first-person shooter from the legendary 3D Realms publisher 1C Entertainment and indie studio Voidpoint. It's set in a cyberpunk sort of universe, and you can blast your way through enemies like it's the 1990s all over again. That's out on the PS4, Xbox One, and the Switch as well. We also had a surprise release from Tetris Effect that came out on the Oculus Quest. It was a surprise. I've not played that yet. I've got the Oculus Quest. I've not played Tetris Effect though. I've heard really good things about that game as well. And just a reminder, Grand Theft Auto 5, that's now free at the moment on the Epic Games Store, and also the Lego Ninjago game, that's free on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. Now, the main big games that are out next week, which I will be talking about on Back to Gaming Podcast. Saints Row the Third Remastered, one of my favourite games. That I really do love it. That's out on the Xbox One and PS4. It's got enhanced graphics, improved lighting, reworked environments, and visual effects. And they're saying that this has never looked so good. It's going to have online co-op as well, and all the DLC is included in that game. Another release that's coming out next week, which I am really interested in. Again, I'll be talking about this on the show. I've pre-ordered both of these games. That's Maneater. Now, this is a single-player action RPG set in the Gulf Coast's unforgiving waters. You fight to survive in the open ocean, swamps and rivers, with danger lurking at every depth. You immerse yourself in a living, breathing world of threats and rewards, explore sunken wrecks, lurking swamps, or just cruise around the open ocean looking for prey to feed on. Your only tools are your wits, your jaws, and also an uncanny ability to evolve as you feed. Anything and everything is on the menu. Kill or be killed. It's out on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. This game literally looks like Grand Theft Auto, but with sharks. I mean, who doesn't want that? So those are the two major games that are coming out next week. Now, next up is what I'm playing. I would really love to know what you're playing. Maybe there's a really good game that you've been playing. I mean, we're all in lockdown at the moment, so there could be someone out there who's a bit bored, feeling a bit down and they want a new experience to be completely immersed in, if you've got a really good recommendation, you've been playing a game that you think I should be playing, or you think others should be playing, get in touch, let me know. Email me at BackToGamingPodcast@gmail.com or BackToGamingPod on Twitter. So what am I playing this week? I've been playing Persona 5 Royal. This game is amazing. Persona 5, I did not play the original game. I've got the original game. I started playing it. I got about 3 to 4 hours in. I was on the first palace in the game, and I went off it. I didn't go off it because it's bad. It's one of the best games ever, but I saw that Royal was coming. I thought, you know what? I'll wait for Royal. I'm glad that I did. I'm over 120 hours in this game. I believe that today I've just finished the final boss battle of Persona 5. I've not got to that extra content, the third semester that's in Royal, but I'm still not bored with it. I'm still loving it. The only thing that I have is that sometimes the palaces in the game, so the palaces are the dungeons in the game, it's JRPG, and I do find that aspect sometimes a little bit tedious. It's really good. You're part of a group called the Phantom Thieves, and you go into these dungeons to change people's hearts. So you've got to basically go into this person's palace. So if they've got a distorted heart, evil desires, they've got a palace. You go into this dungeon and you've got to find a route to their most prized item, their treasure. Once you find that, you've got to basically retrieve the treasure, defeat this person in a boss battle, and bring back their treasure, leave this dungeon, and then their hearts change and they sort of, atone for what they've done. It's a really good game. When you're not in the dungeons, it's a social simulator. You go to school, you're building relationships with different characters, you're building social stats. It's highly addictive. And it feels like a game that we need now. I mean, we're not going outside at the moment, so it's nice to play a game where you're going to school and stuff. I personally love it. I think the story is absolutely fantastic. It's definitely one of the best games I have ever played. I really do recommend it. If you're looking for a big, long, deep rabbit hole to go down, a game that you're going to be playing for ages, I've been playing this for about 2 months, then Persona 5 Royal, I definitely recommend. Now, we're at the end of the first podcast with Back to Gaming. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed listening and talking about games with me. And as I said, I love for you to get in touch. It's your podcast as it is mine. So with this being the end of the first podcast, at the end of each episode, I'm going to leave you with a question that I want you to get in touch with. And it could be any random question in terms of gaming. And it's just a way of talking, sharing our opinions, having fun. And because this is my first time doing this, and you're listening to it, I want to get to know you. And I want to know what your favourite video game is of all time. I'll reveal my favourite video game of all time on the podcast next week. It's going to come out every Friday evening, this podcast is. So what is your favourite video game of all time? You can email me at backtogamingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet me at BackToGamingPod. I'd love to know, and we'll share all of these on the show next week, and I'll share mine as well. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any suggestions, anything you think I should improve on, or you've got any ideas with different features for me to try out, anything at all, please get in touch and let me know, and we can go on this journey and we can shape this podcast, we can shape Back to Gaming, you and I together. Thank you for listening. It's been a pleasure talking about all things gaming, and I'll speak to you again next week.